When most people talk about California real estate, especially here in the Bay Area, the focus is always one thing, the sky-high home prices. But what gets overlooked is what comes after purchase, the property tax. And while everybody worries about mortgage rates, some experts are warning that in the future, it won't be the mortgage rates that causes people to lose their homes. It will be the property tax. So in today's video, I want to break down exactly how property tax works in California, how it's calculated, what triggers reassessment, how to transfer your low tax base when you are buying a new home, and the hidden mistakes that could cause you tax bills to explode without warnings. Hi everyone, this is Boji He, your local Bay Area real estate expert, and welcome back to my channel. I help people buy and sell real estate here in the Bay Area, whether it's upgrading, downsizing homes closer to families, or planning for retirements. So after helping so many clients over the years, I've seen time and time again how one wrong move with property tax can wipe out decades of financial planning. That's why I felt compelled to make this video. Because most people think of real estate as price and interest rates, but they overlook the silent wealth killer in California, the property tax, or the lack of planning for it. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to break down everything. So let's dive in. First, what is property tax? If you already own a home, you already know it. But if you're just watching this and haven't yet bought a home, here's a quick explanation. Property tax is a reoccurring tax you pay to the government just for owning a piece of real estate. In theory, it helps fund your community, like schools, roads, police, parks, and public infrastructures. And in California, the standard property tax is about 1.25% of your home's assessed value, paid over years for as long as you own the home. This brings us to a critical distinction: assessed value versus market value. Market value is what your home will sell for today. Assessed value is what the county uses to calculate your tax, typically the price you pay for the home, and thanks to Prop 13, it cannot be increased more than 2% every year, even if the market skyrockets. So let's say you bought your home for $1 million and 10 years later it's worth $1.5 million on the open market. Your assessed value might only be around 1.2 million. So your property tax bill stays relatively low compared to the new buyers. That's why long-term homeowners often pay far less tax than their new neighbors, even in the same neighborhood. However, to keep that low tax base, you have to avoid triggering reassessment, because once that is triggered, the county can reset your tax base to full market value, and that can mean a massive increase in your annual tax bills. Sometimes it'll double or triple than what you're used to paying. So what triggers reassessments anyways? Well, first of all, we all know that when you sell your home, the buyer's tax base resets to the price they pay for. But what if you give your home to your kids? And that is when Prop 19 changes everything. You see, under the old rules, Prop 58, parents would transfer any type of properties to their kids, residential, rental, commercial, or whatnot, without reassessment, up to a value cap. And that's entirely gone right now. And under the new rules, Prop 19, effectively February 16, 2021, you can only transfer a primary residence to your children without reassessment if it was your primary residence to begin with, not your rental, not your investment. And then your child moves in and claims it as their primary residence after receiving the home. And they file a homeowner's exemption or disabled veterans exemption. And very important, the assessed value plus $1 million buffer is not exceeded. And what is the $1 million buffer? Well, let me show you an example below so all is clear. All right, let's take a look at the current example. We have a house right here, and its current property tax base is $400,000, which is the assessed value, or its property tax is $5,000 a year. Let's look at case one. And in case one, the homeowner wants to pass this property to their child, and the property's value, the fair market value, is $1.3 million. So what that means is, we'll take $1.3 million and compare that with the $400,000 assessed value. The difference is $900,000. And $900,000 is less than the $1 million buffer, which comes with the Prop 19 terms. So in this case, well, it's a good news, because once the kid takes over the ownership of the property, the child's new property tax is still going to be $400,000 or $5,000 a year, which means there is no reassessments needed, because the difference between the assessed value and the fair market value is less than the $1 million buffer. So that's case one, and that's how the $1 million buffer works. And let's look at case two. And in case two, we have the same situation, same house, but right now the home is valued at $2 million at the market. So what happens then? Well, we'll take the $2 million, subtract the $400,000 from, the difference is $1.6 million. $1.6 million is above the $1 million buffer, which came with the Prop 19. And the difference is $600,000. That means it's $600,000 excessive to $1 million. So in case two, when the child takes the ownership, there will be a reassessment trigger. However, the new property tax base is going to be the difference of whatever that exceeds the $1 million buffer, which is this $600,000. That's being added to the original $400,000 assessed value. So the child's new property tax assessed value will be $1 million, or the property tax being $12,500 per year, which is still a lot less than the $2 million full market value at the time of transfer. This is all assuming that the child, the parent and the child all qualified for the Prop 19s. Another common transfer is interspousal transfer, like adding or removing a spouse from the title, whether it's because of marriage, a divorce with proper settlement agreement, or death of one spouse. This type of transfer is generally excluded from property tax reassessment in California. A third common transfer is to a living trust. Generally speaking, transferring to a revocable trust while the owner is still alive does not trigger reassessment, and may trigger reassessment if transferring to an irrevocable trust, unless exclusions apply. So if the property passes to your child through a trust after owner's death, Prop 19 still applies. So they must meet the primary residence, $1 million buffer requirement, or the property will be reassessed. So it is crucial to file a claim for exclusion with the assessor's office in all cases. Keep in mind, this could get way more complicated. What I am providing here is a general knowledge for educational purpose only, and shall not be taken as legal advice. Please check with licensed professionals, CPAs, or attorneys for specific scenario you may have. The second way that can trigger property reassessment is when you change the square footage of the property. Let me elaborate. A lot of people are looking at big backyards and wondering, what if I build an ADU in the backyard and collect more rent? Well, that's a great idea. And when you do add ADUs and making it officially on record, it will change the market value of your home, and as well as triggering reassessment. However, the good news is that only the newly built ADU will be assessed to current market value. The rest of your property will still remain its original tax base. This process is called blended assessment. Nonetheless, your new property tax base will go up as a result of square footage increase. By now, you have heard I mentioned before the Prop 19 in several places already. It is a very important regulation regarding property tax in California, and it goes way beyond whether your property tax will be reassessed or not. Because what if you want to move and still want to keep your current low property tax base to your next home? Well, Prop 19 gets you covered, and this is also where a lot of plans backfire if you miscalculate. So pay attention. First of all, Prop 19 allows you to transfer your low tax base if at least one of the owner of the original property is over 55 years of age, or severely disabled, or lost homes in the wildfire or other natural disasters that was declared a state of emergency. You can buy a new home that is equal or less in value anywhere in California as a primary residence and transfer your original property tax base. And this is important. You have a 2-year window to sell and buy and can do this 3 times in your lifetime totally. Another important detail, this does not apply in the sale of a primary residence due to divorce. In this case, only one individual gets to claim the Prop 19 benefit. So make sure this is part of the divorce negotiation. The part that confuses a lot of people is, one, the replacement home is more expensive than the original home. What's going to happen? Well, let me explain now. If you are buying an 800K single family home in Sacramento for retirement living, and then you want to sell your 700K condo in San Jose after, then you want to carry your original low tax base of $150,000 to your new home in Sacramento. Now, because the new home purchase is 100K more than the one you sell, then the 100K will be added to your original tax base, and now your new tax base will be 250, which is still much lower than the $800,000 without the transfer. Now, if you're selling first and then buy, what's going to happen? Well, in this case, a time-dependent buffer will be applying. So in year one, if you're buying, you will add 5% to the 700K sold price of the condo, and then it becomes $735,000. With an $800,000 purchase, the excess value is $65,000. Add that to your original tax base, we have a $215,000 as your new tax base. If buying year two, you'll have 10% to your $700,000 condo sales, and now the excess is $30,000. Therefore, your new tax base is $180,000. In essence, buying a more expensive replacement home before selling adds a full value difference to your original tax base. Conversely, selling before buying provides a 5% or 10% buffer, depending on the purchase timeline, which can mitigate the increase to your new tax base. In all situations, make sure you submit an application to the assessor's office in the county of the replacement home within 3 years of its purchase or completion of the new build. Now we've covered a lot of information. It's time for a little story. You see, not too long ago, like back in 2013, the Facebook's founder and CEO Mark Zuckerberg was living in Palo Alto and decided to buy all of his neighbors' homes so that he could turn the entire corner into a bigger compound for added privacy and safety. One of his neighbors, the Schulman family, received an offer of $14 million on their home from Zuckerberg's company. It was way more than the expectations, so they decided to take money. And Zuckerberg successfully bought all of the neighbors' homes, but unable to turn everything into his ideal castle. The city eventually rejected his building plan. That is a different story. Now, the Schulman family, with $14 million in the pocket, ended up buying a $7 million homes in Atherton. Since they're both over the age of 55, according to Prop 90 at the time, they thought they could transfer their original property tax base, which was about $1.7 million or $20,000 a year property tax, to their new homes. However, their application got denied because although their old home was sold for $14 million, the county still assessed the property value to be only $4.9 million. This makes their new purchase of $7 million way over the 110% buffer. Now the couple's property tax went from $20K a year to $80K a year, turning their original Silicon Valley real estate success story into a time-consuming, stressful headache. So, to quote from the families, "Had I known, we would never have done it." The Schulman family hired lawyers, went through a lot of headaches and process to contest the result, but the outcome is unknown. This story is teaching us something important. The sale price of the home does not always determine the assessed value, especially when the sale is not considered an arm's length transaction. You see, some parents try to sell their homes to their kids for $100, $500, or something ridiculously low to pass along their low property tax base. But the county will not go for that. They'll reassess based on their opinion of the market value, not what's on paper. So to avoid reassessment, keep the sale price within about 15% of the fair market value. And even if you appeal your reassessment, the odds are really against you. The appeal process is slow, frustrating, and even if you win, it's usually temporary because if the market rises again, your property is often the first one reassessed upwards. I'm speaking from the street experience. Bottom line, before you finalize your next offer, do not just think about the price. Think about the long-term property tax consequences. One overlooked detail can cost you tens of thousands of dollars a year. This isn't about gaming a system. It's about understanding it better than even most agents do. Because in California, property tax is a silent killer of wealth. If you do not plan for it, it will eat up your wealth alive. So, what do you think about the story? Should the Schulman family's original home be valued at $4.9 million, or should it have been $14 million the sale price? Comment down below and let me know. And if you have specific tax questions, remember, always consult with a licensed professional. I'm just a real estate agent here in the Bay Area wanting to share useful experience in the subject of property tax. However, if you do have questions about buying or selling or real estate market here, feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to help. If you like this type of video or content, give me a like and a subscription so that you won't miss any future videos. All right, that's it for now, and I'll see you on the next one.